Have you heard the theory that the Trumps are time travelers?
Grab me a DeLorean.
This connects to, guess who? Nikola Tesla.
No way.
Today we're looking at TikToks that prove that time travel exists.
Right, this video is gonna f you up. Sorry. And I've pretty much only just found this out. This right here is Noah, and he claims to have traveled back from the year 2030.
Welcome back, guys. Thank you to all the channel members for support. As y'all know, let's try to hit 2,000 likes this video. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to smash that subscribe button. Let's go.
Right, this video is gonna f you up. Sorry. And I've pretty much only just found this out. This right here is Noah, and he claims to have traveled back from the year 2030. Not only that, he somehow passed a lie detector test. So say what you will, now I'm kind of scared. He came back with a warning that things were inevitably about to fuck up. Who's surprised? He also came back with a list of things that's going to happen. And in my opinion, the most interesting of those from 2028 to 2029. So let's go through them. August 2028, where time travel and concrete evidence for the existence of little LDT will be released to the public. That's kind of creepy considering the government's already planning on releasing certain documents about a UFO project. Okay, Noah, we'll give you that one. Next up, November 2028, where the President of the United States will be Martin Luther King Jr.'s granddaughter, Yolanda Renee King. The only mild issue about this one is you have to be 35, and she'll be fucking 20. But I don't know, the rules could change. Then we've got February 2029, where implant chips known as The One will be released to the public, allowing people to stay healthy and expand their natural brain functions. I'm getting Lucy vibes. But also, Elon!
Time travel to the past is possible, and here's how you would do it. Now, if you watch my previous videos, you would know that we're all moving through space and through time. We're moving through time as well. This is called our world line. Imagine a straight line that extends outwards. That's my trajectory through space and time. Now, there's something called a light cone. If I were to move faster through space, near the speed of light, the furthest I can possibly go would be the edge of my light cone. The light cone is all the possible trajectories I can take depending on my speed through space and time. So because we're all moving through space and time, and the speed of light is the absolute limit, the maximum speed I can have, I can't go past my light cone, because if I were, I would have to be going faster than light. That's why it's not straightforward to just go back in time, because you'd have to go faster than light. Now here's where we start to use some loopholes. We're going to use something called a wormhole. Imagine this sheet of paper representing the fabric of space and time itself. Now, if I'm over here and I want to traverse to this point in space-time, that's a long ways, right? But if I simply bend the space and time, now I poke a hole through there. Bam, I traversed all that space in just a little bit of time. In fact, from our dimensional perspective, these 2 points are the same points in space and time. Great, Mike. Now how do we go back in time? Well, if we were to create a wormhole, there would be 2 mouths of it. There'd be 2 mouths connected by the throat of it. Like a tunnel, you can go in one end and come out the other, and vice versa. Now, Kip Thorne, this is the guy behind Interstellar, he had this extreme thought experiment. He thought that if we were to make a wormhole, there would be 2 ends of it. There each be 2 bubbles of spacetime which are directly connected to each other. But he imagined having one side of the wormhole, one mouth of it on Earth, and taking the other mouth of the wormhole and dragging it out into space at near the speed of light, such that he would see lots of time dilation. Time would slow down for that end of the wormhole. So the one end of the wormhole that's in space traveling may be aged a year, but on the Earth, the other end of the wormhole aged maybe 20 or 30 years. So from the outside, you see this time dilation occur, right? You see this difference in time. But from the inside of the wormhole, the space and times are the same. So let's say the year is 2030 on one end of the wormhole. The year on Earth would be 2060. So if I was on Earth in the year 2060 and I were to enter that wormhole, I would actually be going back in time to the year 2030. So if you can build a wormhole, you can really travel back in time, utilizing time dilation as well. Now, there's 2 caveats to this. Number 1 is, in order to make a wormhole, you need lots of energy, and lots of negative energy too. Because wormholes want to collapse. The throat of it want to collapse under gravity. So you have to keep it open, pry it open constantly. That would take manipulating vacuum fluctuations, which we really don't know how to do yet. The second caveat is, you can't go further back in time than when you produced the wormhole in the first place. So I can't just make a wormhole and go back to the year 2000 or the year 1990. I can't do that because we haven't invented the wormhole yet. So maybe that answers the question as to why there aren't time travelers all around us, because nobody has invented these time machines yet. But perhaps there are aliens out there that have created these wormholes such that we could enter them and go back in time. It's possible, but probably not. All we know right now is that the time we're experiencing is the only time we get. So let's make it great.
He literally time traveled into the future, and now Elon Musk is trying to learn his secret. After dissecting the fabric of space, Sergey Krikalev actually built a space station that could travel through time, but not that well. So here's how he did it. Sergey would start by propelling him at extremely high speeds before literally warping him forwards. But how much time did he actually save? It wasn't enough to completely disappear from history, and it turns out he would only know when his mission was complete, which was to test Wi-Fi before it was released to the public. But after his Russian boss forgot he was stuck in space for 10 months, Sergey ended up orbiting the Earth 5 times by accident. He was in space for so long that the USSR collapsed while he watched it all from there. Luckily, he had spent nearly 3 years in space and was able to survive with very little supplies, also giving him just enough time to test how space actually works. And what he noticed was so interesting that even Elon Musk is now trying to build a similar spacecraft for Starlink. So follow, because his instruments said he had time traveled over 200 milliseconds.
What happened to Mike Marcum, the guy that built a time travel machine and then disappeared? In 1995, this guy Mike Marcum was playing around building a machine called a Jacob's ladder. This is what a Jacob's ladder looks like. It's essentially 2 metal rods with a spark going between them. But after he built it, a vortex on the small machine he built appeared at the top. Mike then put a screw through it, and the screw actually disappeared and reappeared a few seconds later, but was further away. So essentially the screw teleported or time traveled. Now Mike knew what he had, and he wanted to do this on scale. He wanted to make one that was a lot bigger. The problem is to get enough power to do so is going to be very expensive. He wrote up his plans and he went to a local city transformers electric park, claiming that he needed 20,000 volts of electricity to power this. Went to the transformers, he plugged in his machine. Instead, he caused a citywide blackout. Police then came shortly after and arrested him, and the judge put him in jail for 2 months. This guy named Art Bell finds out about his story and invites him onto his radio show. He comes on the show, talks about his experience, talks about what he was doing, and it blows up. Art's audience is going crazy, asking him questions. Mike is answering every single question. Actually find the live recordings of these. They're all posted online. He goes over his whole story about how he was just trying to build a fancy Jacob's ladder and accidentally built the time travel machine. And Art asked him if he did go into the future, what would he bring? In which Mike answered he would only bring a cell phone with him. The story blew up. People were donating electric parts, money. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of electric parts to fund his next machine if he was building one. A few years later after the story, Art decides to reach back out to Mike. Like, what's he up to? Calls all of his old connections that he reached out to get Mike in the first place, you know, parents, family, everybody, and nobody has seen him. He gets in touch with one of Mike's old friends. The friend told Art that Mike was building one last machine for one last experiment in which Mike would actually be going through the vortex. The story kind of ends there, but there is one weird coincidence that happened afterwards when they were looking at old arrest records and police reports to see if there's any coincidences. On a California beach in the 1930s, the police found a giant strange metal tube with a man crushed inside. Inside the tube, the man was unrecognizable. They found a strange, mysterious, like technological device. It did mention that if he did time travel, he would only bring a cell phone. So a lot of people are predicting that he actually died in the 1930s, went back in time. So it's a very curious case of time travel. In my opinion, the question shouldn't be what happened to him or where is he now. The question should be, when is he now? What time period is he in now?
I think that would be super trippy if he was the one that really died in 1930, because that'd be crazy, because he was never born close to 1930, so he would have went back into the past. But I feel like they would know that it was someone from the future though, based off of what he had.
This is the best evidence of an actual time traveler that we have.
In 2006, in the city of Kyiv, Ukraine, police were called to deal with a confused man. When they arrived, they found a young man who was scared, didn't know where he was, and was dressed in strange anachronistic clothing, carrying a camera. Little did they know that they were possibly standing face to face with an actual time traveler. The man's name was Sergey Ponomarenko, and when the police asked him for his ID, he handed it to them, and the first thing they noticed was that it was issued from a country that didn't exist anymore, the Soviet Union. Ukraine was, of course, part of the Soviet Union in the past, but the Soviet Union had dissolved almost a couple of decades ago at that point. So let's just say the police didn't see those IDs much anymore, especially on young people, and this guy looked like he was in his 20s. And yet his ID stated that his birth date was in 1932. And he matched the picture in the ID. Something didn't add up. When they asked him what day he thought it was, he answered April 23rd, 1958. And that's when the police said, okay, we're going to take you to a little room and you can talk to the nice doctor.
What the? Yeah.
So Sergey winds up in a mental hospital in the care of Dr. Pavlo Kudrikov. So the doctor played along with this whole idea, and he asked him if he could figure out or if he could remember how he wound up in 2006, even though he thought it was 1958. And as recorded by the doctor, Sergey said, quote, "It was daytime, and I wanted to go for a walk in the city. I took my camera, but when I left my house, I saw a strange object that had a bell shape, and it was very strange, and it was flying in a strange way. It is difficult to explain what I was seeing. It might be better to look at the photos from my camera." Dr. Kudrikov was curious, so he got a hold of the camera, and the first thing he noticed was that it was an old rare Yashima Flex. The doctor was a bit of a photographer himself, so he recognized the brand and knew right away that this was like an antique. Which is a problem, because it used a type of film that hadn't been manufactured since the 1970s. You can't just take it down to the CVS to get it developed, so he called in a photography expert named Vadim Poisner. Vadim got the film out, and he was able to see from the real info that it was manufactured in 1956. But it was in perfect condition. So he developed the roll, and this is when everything just kept getting weirder. What he found on the roll were photos of Kiev, but clearly from a long time ago. All the cars, all the clothes, all the street signs, all were from the 50s. And there were photos of buildings that didn't exist anymore. And right there in front of those buildings was Sergey with his girlfriend at the time, out enjoying a beautiful day, wearing the exact same clothes he was found in. And the last photo on the reel, just as Sergey had suggested, featured a bell-shaped UFO. When the doctor asked him about the UFO photo, Sergey said, quote, "Now are you convinced I'm telling the truth? I so far do not understand what this object is and how something like that happened to me at the same moment when I took the picture and I went down to look at the camera and somehow I showed up in this year."
That's actually crazy. I don't know why that one was so convincing to me, because I remember one of the stories that we looked at in one of our previous videos. They were talking about how the Germans back in World War II actually found a bell-shaped UFO.
This time traveler goes back in time and takes videos of you without you knowing. So they commented, "If you are truly a time traveler, show me when I was in high school eating alone." And they did it. This is insane, y'all. Stay weird.
In 1980, a Japanese journalist filmed an iPhone. It was an iPhone 13. And this video is currently resurfacing on the internet, creating an incredible buzz. This show was filmed in 1980 around Hiroshima. You know that a bomb exploded in Hiroshima in 1945, which led to the city being deserted due to radiation. The show is about returning to the site to observe the abandoned houses and objects left behind. At the time, the journalist thought he had found a mirror, because theoretically, the iPhone didn't exist in 1980. However, it was indeed an iPhone 13. The most worrying part is that no one can explain how an iPhone 13 ended up there in 1980. The journalist, perplexed, didn't know what to make of it and genuinely believed it was a mirror. So, who can explain this glitch in the Matrix, please?
Have an update regarding the time traveler that went into my shed and disappeared. And this is gonna blow a lot of people's minds. And if you're still denying that this is real at this point, this is gonna change your mind. So just a quick recap, this guy walks around my backyard, goes to my shed, opens the door, goes inside, and disappears. Called the cops came, they went in the shed twice. He wasn't in there. I looked like an insane guy. The cops are like, what is this guy smoking? And you can see he never came back until the next day right here. Notification on my camera that there's somebody in my backyard, and this guy leaves my shed. And he looks right at the camera too. That guy left my shed. But here's the craziest part. This looks like the same guy, maybe, glasses, whatever. Let's look at the other guy. This was the other guy. He noticeably aged. Looks like the same guy, but aged. So him again, and now him. Same facial features, whiter hair. So I don't even know what to think at this point. Somebody explain this. He literally left the same shed. You saw the camera I put before. There was no movement that whole night. Then the next day, this guy leaves the shed, looks right at the camera like he knows, and he looks noticeably older. I don't know, something's going on. Somebody explain what's going on in my shed. I'll be going there in about a week to give a tour, since a lot of people are asking. But yeah, it's crazy. Like, I don't even know what to think. Did he time travel? Is this a different person? Who is this new guy? Is it the same guy? Let me know what you think, because this blew my mind. If you still don't believe the story about the time traveler that went into my shed, disappeared, and then came back in the future, this video is going to change your mind. There's so much evidence supporting this theory. This guy named Matty Ice, he's been looking into this a lot. It's funny because he actually made a skit on part 1, kind of like making fun of me, but now he's come around to actually looking into this because this is real. So he's been looking into this story, and he found some crazy evidence. To start this off, I don't support reaching out to anybody's families or anything like that. This is all speculative, but evidence kind of makes sense. So what he did is he did a reverse image search, and he found this guy who looks pretty similar to our boy here. The crazy part is this guy was obsessed with time travel. And you can see 9 years ago, he used to post on blogs talking about time travel and how it works. So he graduated from Harvard University, which is, you know, obviously impressive. So this guy knew his stuff. He was obsessed with time travel, and he looks like our guy. So it's like, okay, it's probably him then, right? This guy died in 2018, 6 years ago, which, by the way, how is 2018 6 years ago? That's crazy in its own. But 6 years ago, this guy died. But he looks the same. He was obsessed with time travel. We also found this, which is family members saying they miss him and that they, you know, love him and stuff like that, in November 2018. We also found this, which is the same thing, talking about his death, July of 2017. So this one also says he died in July of 2018, but then they posted in 2017. It's possible that they edited this text to, you know, give him a shout out how he passed away. Maybe his picture was posted beforehand, but still a little fishy, right? It was in 2017 saying, you know, he died in 2018, but whatever. He also found this interview notes, which I guess he was interviewed and somebody took notes of the interview. And in this interview, he was talking about his obsession with sound and time travel and how everything like that works in another dimension. This is all speculative. I didn't do any of this research. This is all Matty Ice. But this is crazy because there's a lot of coincidences. This guy looks the same. He was obsessed with time travel. He died. Somebody commented about his death a year before it happened. Mentioned that maybe the body wasn't found. I don't know how accurate that part is. But coincidences going back to this guy who looks like our time traveler. So yeah, pretty crazy. I definitely urge you not to reach out to this guy's family. They probably don't want to talk about this. I know if, you know, I had a family member pass away, I wouldn't want somebody calling me about this. But yeah, pretty interesting. You know, tag me if you guys find any more info on this.
This man claims that he's a time traveler, and he has a lot of videos to prove it. Because when he time travels to the past, he brings his phone with him to record everything.
Guys, I am here in 1984. As you can see behind me, there's Taco Bell. Not lying.
But how does this video prove that he time traveled to 1984? Let's play the video a little bit more and look closer at the Taco Bell store.
Look at this, 1984, guys. Taco Bell.
For reference, this is what Taco Bell stores look like in 1984. The brown bricks are the same, the font of the logo is the same, and even the oval-shaped hole in the store is the same. And this is what a Taco Bell looks like today. It's totally different. But of course, people online wouldn't believe him from just one video, so a commenter challenged him to do this. Go to New York and show us the World Trade Center. And he actually did it. The next video he posted creeped out the people online because it looked like he went back to New York the day after the 9/11 attack, and he showed physical evidence that proved that he time traveled.
Currently in 2001 New York City right now, just like you guys wanted me to show you. If you don't believe me, let me show you something.
He pulled out a newspaper with the date September 12, 2001. And to prove that he's not just stitching old videos from the internet, he recorded himself like this.
How's this for proof?
The last 2 seconds of this video showed the burned rubble of the Twin Towers, but people still didn't believe him, so he uploaded this video.
Who still do not believe that I'm a time traveler, this is going to be absolute proof that I am. I'm about to prove to you that I've already lived this day and I could pretty much predict everything that's about to happen. Let me show you. White truck, white car. Gray car, white car. Blue car, gray car. Blue SUV, white truck.
And this is where things get interesting, because he claims that jumping from one time to another is dangerous, because people from the past started to notice that he wasn't from their time and started to follow his every move.
That man right there has been following me for the past half an hour throughout the whole city. I think they're catching on to me. I think they found out that I'm in the wrong time period.
So is this man a real time traveler? This guy spends all of his time recording videos to prove that he's a time traveler, and he always starts his videos like this.
I just came back from the future. I'm about to show you, it's gonna blow your freaking mind.
And if you check his TikTok account, you'll see that he's been posting countless videos as proof. Most of his videos get millions of views because people are curious if he's a real time traveler or not. Now, let's start the investigation. To know the truth, we need to dig deep onto his TikTok account. This is his first ever time travel video that he posted.
This is gonna basically prove to you 100% that I'm a time traveler.
And his proof? This Super Nintendo from 1995. This video went viral, so he uploaded another video and it went like this.
This right here is a video camcorder used back in 1999 by families that lived in that time period. How could I possibly get this, guys? Come on.
But he wasn't only going back in time, he was also going into the future, and his next video would prove just that.
I'm gonna show you something that I got and brought it back to this time to show you guys. I have with me an item from Taco Bell that does not exist anywhere else but in 2027. McDonald's sold its quarter pounder to Taco Bell in 2027, guys.
This video went viral again, and this is when he realized that people are into time traveling. So he posted more videos to prove that he is a time traveler. And this made him a super popular TikToker with hundreds of millions of views. And because of his newfound fame, he didn't want to get debunked. So people started challenging him to time travel to different times, and he was more than ready to take on the challenge. And he dared to go back again to the year 2001 before the 9/11 attacks ever happened, and this is what went down.
Guys, when I went to the World Trade Center after 9/11, as you could tell in the video, that still apparently was not enough proof. You guys wanted me to go back and show the actual towers before the attack. And I hate going back over there because it's spooky. It's a spooky era, but just because I'm a nice guy, I was willing to go there today and film a few clips. Now some of these clips are gonna be the Twin Towers, me showing you my face with the Twin Towers behind me, and also a few clips of New York City during that time. Guys, this is gonna blow your mind. Check this out. As you can tell, I got the Twin Towers behind me. Guys, I'm not making this up. I'm about 3 miles away from the World Trade Center right now, but look, there they are, right behind me.
But this video wasn't enough proof for his followers to believe him, and it made them doubt him even more. Because unlike his other time travel videos, this video looked so grainy. And if you look closely, he glitched in the video, which is an indicator that he was probably using a green screen. And that's not the only thing about the video, because people noticed that the towers in this video look totally different from the real ones. Dude, that's not the towers, too small, and the Twin Towers never connected at the top. According to Google Images, this is what the real Twin Towers look like, but this is what they look like in his video. So is this guy a real time traveler, or is he just claiming to be one for fame? Well, his story takes an interesting turn when he decides to expose himself.
I get a lot of comments on my videos saying, dude, you're so lucky for all the followers that you have. But let me tell you, it has nothing to do with luck. I've put in the work. I've put up hundreds of videos, allowed myself to look like a complete idiot for you guys to ridicule me and make fun of me. I stay up at night thinking of creative ways to entertain you. Don't be afraid to look like an idiot like me.
So he's not a time traveler, everything is scripted, and he's just doing it for the fame.
You heard the theory that the Trumps are time travelers?
Grab me a DeLorean.
This connects to, guess who? Nikola Tesla.
No way.
Nikola Tesla died in the New York hotel or something. And within his hotel that he had 80 plus trunks of all his patents, his designs for different technologies, all this stuff. Guess who they sent first to go and collect the stuff?
I don't know.
John G. Trump. Donald Trump's uncle.
What?
Weird.
So the theory is that he took some of these trunks.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But Tesla said that he had figured out how to bend time.
Yeah.
And so
As one does.
the theory is Donald Trump's uncle took this, created a time machine.
Oh my gosh.
And traveled back in time and like did all this stuff. But then the weird connection is there was a book that came out in 1896 and it's called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
Okay, so someone else named Baron Trump, or you're saying
Do you know
it was actually Baron Trump?
Do you know what the book was about?
What?
Time travel?
Baron Trump time traveling.
No!
This man says he's from year 3036. Listen to what he says.
You're as free as you're ever going to get right now. These are considered the last days of freedom. Your kids won't even see it. So, soak it up, because as simple-minded as your time period is, you got it pretty good. You just don't know it. What's the population in 3050? Time travel.
Tell me that ain't.
Video phone in 1995.
This movie is one of the most extreme depictions of time travel I've ever seen. It's unique, it's entertaining, and it really goes further than you think it's gonna go. Now before I get into it, if you're looking for new TV shows and movies to watch, hit that follow button. Now the movie I'm talking about is called Time Trap. The movie starts with an archaeology professor telling his students he's gonna go explore a cave where he believes there's some time anomalies. Now when a few days go by, the students realize that the professor has not come back, and so they go to check if everything's okay. Now this group of kids goes down to this cave, and they find it pretty fast. So they get a rope, they start going in, but one of them stays outside, just to make sure everything is okay. Now, pretty quickly when the students get into the cave, they realize that something weird is going on. They keep seeing like light start changing, getting brighter, darker, and they're confused. And what they slowly realize is that a few minutes down here is several days in the real world. And it's not easy to get out of this cave. Their only path gets destroyed, and so they're stuck in this cave, not knowing what to do. And time is passing by fast out there. And so begins an insane journey. Because they're not the first people to find this cave. And because of how fast time passes in the real world, some people in this cave may have been there for a long, long time. And that's all I'm going to say. Now, although the premise might sound like it's been done before, this movie pushes it to the extremes. Like, think of how extreme you think they'll push this, it goes even further. I was surprised that this movie is not that talked about, because it's honestly really entertaining to watch. Now, there's some absolutely great moments in this film, and I really wish I could tell you guys, but I don't want to ruin anything. So go check this movie out on Netflix right now. And you know the deal. If you've seen it, let's talk about it in the comments.
There can be no time travel because so far, no one from the future has ever shown up and said hi.
What that requires is that there's no time travel to the past, because the future person would then be coming to the past. We can travel into the future, however. Our understanding of that has been around since 1905, and it's Einstein's special theory of relativity. If I send you on a spaceship at speeds nearing the speed of light, and we watch you, we will see that your clock ticks more slowly than our own. And then you come back, it's the famous twin study. You send out your twin, they can come back, you aged 20 years, your twin would have aged only 10, depending on the exact speed. And so in that way, your twin went into the future. Now, you're right about the past. We don't know yet how to go into the past. There's some peculiar solutions of Einstein's equations that allow past travel, but then you can't interact with your life. You're in sort of another place. Because imagine if you could interact with your own life, prevent your parents from meeting. Then you would never conceive. Then you could have never been sent back in time to prevent your parents from meeting.
Yeah, that theory is called the grandfather paradox. It's basically saying that to travel into the past, we wouldn't be able to interact with our own lives, because if we eventually stop our grandparents from meeting, then it would make this whole domino effect where we wouldn't be born. So I guess that makes sense.
This is known as the most convincing case of time travel in the whole of history. Sergey Ponomarenko was a guy who literally appeared out of nowhere in Kiev in 2006. So he arrived wearing really outdated clothes and had a camera that looked very old. He claimed that he was walking down the street with his girlfriend when a blinding light appeared and transported him to 2006. After conducting an investigation, the police told him that he had to show some kind of proof that he was from that era. He then suggested they look at the photos in his camera. There was an undeveloped film in the device. When they developed it, it revealed photos of a girl that seemed to date back to the 1950s in Kiev. So, there are two options. Either this guy had a camera from the 1950s at 25 years old, and he knew the contents of the undeveloped photos. There were also photos of him on the device. So they asked, "Okay, who is this girl in the pictures?" He replied, "That's my girlfriend." They then asked for her name to look her up, but it was at that moment that the police were stunned. He literally...
Imagine that this folder is a dimensional plane. Now, assuming that it is no height and no depth, what would this mean? It would mean that it's a one-dimensional world. So if, hypothetically, an organism was living inside of it, it would only be able to move in a linear path forward and backwards in a straight line. Now, if we go to the second dimension, we have two dimensions. We have width and we have length. So hypothetically, if an organism lived inside of here, then it would be able to move up, down, left, right, and anywhere else in between. And a two-dimensional world is comprised of an infinite series of one-dimensional worlds stacked upon each other. Just as our three-dimensional world, which has depth and length and height, is comprised of an infinite series of two-dimensional worlds. So, now that I have stacked many folders upon each other, we have three dimensions. We have depth, we have length, and we have width. Now what happens if you keep going on from here on out? We would have a four-dimensional world. But what exactly is a fourth dimension? In order to understand this, we need to understand how dimensions are perceived. We live in the three-dimensional world, but despite that, we actually view things to be two-dimensionally. Take a perfect sphere, for example. If you're looking at a sphere, it looks just like a regular two-dimensional circle. The only way that you can tell it's an actual sphere instead of a circle is because of the hues of light on it. So just like in a two-dimensional world, if a organism in the two-dimensional world was looking upon a circle, the light would make it appear to be lighter at one end and darker in the middle. Also, if an object is moving closer and farther away from you, you don't actually perceive that it's getting closer and farther away. You see that it's getting smaller or larger, and then you assume that it's getting either farther away or closer. But let's say that an object was to grow in perfect equilibrium, so that it was growing at the same speed that it was shrinking as you move it farther away. Then you would not be able to tell, without any light or if there were details on the object, that it's moving or growing at all. You may have assumed that since we perceive things to be in two dimensions, that a two-dimensional organism would see in one dimension. So, as we're watching this rubber band expand as it moves farther away from this little organism in the two-dimensional world, it does not actually perceive anything is happening to it because it's growing at the same speed that it's moving farther away. But since we can actually see it from the three-dimensional world and perceive things to be in two dimensions, we can see things for how they actually are. The reason that the two-dimensional organism doesn't see things the way they really are is because the two-dimensional organism sees things in one dimension, just how we, three-dimensional creatures, see things in two dimensions. So in a way, we don't really see our world the way it truly is. A four-dimensional creature, however, seeing our three-dimensional world in three dimensions,
would be able to see through things, would be able to see absolutely everything, just as we could see if there was several organisms spread along a 2D environment on your floor. You would be able to see inside houses, you would be able to see inside of people. So if a two-dimensional world, a flat surface, is just made of an infinite amount of lines, then the 3D world is just made out of an infinite amount of planes. So the 4D world, logically, is made out of an infinite amount of 3D objects. Though they're not just put together like you would like building blocks. That's not how the 4D world is. That would just be 3D again. So in order to understand this, we need to understand the logical progression of mathematics in our world. Imagine that this connects piece represents the first dimension. It's simply a straight line, which is basically what the first dimension looks like. And if you add 3 more of these straight lines and connect them so that adjacent sides are perpendicular and opposite sides are parallel, then you have the basic shape of the second dimension. You have a square. Now if you keep going from here and you add it so that there's a total of 4 squares, and all adjacent sides are perpendicular and all opposite sides are parallel, then you end up with, obviously, a cube. So if you tried to keep going from here, then you would have a 4-dimensional basic shape. You would have what's called a tesseract. Now I cannot show you a tesseract, but you need to understand that it's basically 4 cubes that are within each other that have all adjacent sides perpendicular and all opposite sides parallel. Yet there are 4 lines connecting to each vertex. So a tesseract would look somewhat like this picture. Now that's not exactly what it looks like, because this is a 2-dimensional depiction, and obviously not all of the lines are straight. So I cannot show you what a tesseract actually looks like, because we cannot perceive things in the 3rd dimension. You cannot even imagine what a tesseract looks like. You cannot in your mind picture the 4th dimension or a 4th dimensional shape. And you can keep going on from the 4th dimension even. You can go to the 5th dimension, the 6th dimension, the 71st dimension. It doesn't matter. Theoretically, there are an infinite amount of spatial dimensions. A common misconception of the 4th dimension is that the 4th dimension is time. Now, while some argue that by going forward and backwards in time, if you move forward the same distance and backwards the same, then you would end up in the same place you started, just like in the 4th dimension. And while that may seem logical, if you think about it, it really doesn't make sense. If you imply that the 4th dimension is actually time, well, first of all, time is not spatial. There's a difference between space and time, quite obviously. And assuming that all dimensions are according to a pattern, then that doesn't really make sense either, because saying the 4th dimension is time, every dimension has time in it, so that would mean that the 4th dimension is special in some way, which doesn't really make any sense. Another reason this doesn't make sense is that we very, very, very slightly travel through time whenever we move due to the distance that light takes to get to our body. Now, if a group of astronauts were to get in a spaceship and they were to go very, very, very close to the speed of light, then they would, and they went around in this impossible, nearly the speed of light spaceship for a few months, and then afterwards they returned to Earth. They would find that Earth had actually progressed a few years, so they had moved forward in time by moving that quickly. Another interesting concept involving the 4th dimension is that many physicists and even mathematicians may say that the dimensions are very, very slightly curved, because if you really think about it, nothing can be truly, absolutely infinite. So imagine that the first dimension, the line, is just very, very slightly curved, so that after a very long time, it will end up creating a circle. So, as suggested by many physicists, if you keep going in the same direction, then you will end up where you started after a very, very long amount of time, obviously. And the same thing would happen to the second dimension. If it's just a square, and then you extend it very, very slightly in a curve, and it will eventually make a sphere. And the same thing happens in our dimension, except it will form a very, very slightly curved third dimension, which will form a four-dimensional universe, basically. So what this kind of means is that our three-dimensional world is within a four-dimensional world, and the four-dimensional world is within a fifth-dimensional world, and so on. Now, I did say that nothing can be truly infinite, but if this is true, and a dimension is really within another dimension, within another dimension, within another dimension, then I'm implying that there's an infinite amount of dimensions, which is the only problem I really have with this theory. I'm not sure if it ever stops, or if infinity is really even possible. We don't know that. Thanks for watching my video, and I hope this gave you a better idea of what the fourth dimension is.
You know what's crazy about that video? That was actually one of the first ever YouTube videos on YouTube. I mean, I never personally saw it, but like I remember seeing clips of it, and I was just like, that's actually a pretty good explanation of dimension.
When time travelers were spotted. First, in Charlie Chaplin's 1928 film, The Circus. A woman appears to be using and speaking on a cell phone, a device that wouldn't exist for many years. However, some suggest that it might actually be a hearing aid, not a phone. Second, take a look at this photo. Did you notice anything strange? There is a man who seems to be dressed in modern clothes and holding a modern camera, but upon closer inspection, we can discover that all the items he's wearing were likely available at the time, and it's believed that the camera he's holding was introduced in 1938. Third, another case can be found in the 1995 boxing match between Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely, where a spectator appears to be using a smartphone camera. Considering this technology only existed after 2000, it seems strange. Although this is highly debated, many people believe it was simply a portable camera model, such as the Casio QV-10A or Casio QV-100. But what do you think about it? Do you believe that time travelers can still be among us today?
Yeah, I've seen that theory so many times, and I think a lot of people debunked it as to be a camera. Like the same camera that he showed, I'm pretty sure he just had it, but sideways, not like vertical, which is usually how cameras are set up.
Did you ever hear the story of that girl that didn't want to go bungee jumping, but her boyfriend managed to convince her to go bungee jumping, and they had to climb to the top of this like mountain hill type thing, and the whole time they were arguing, all the passers-by, they're all like, yeah, they were really going for it. It was obvious that she didn't want to go, she was scared. But they get to the top, and somehow her boyfriend, he convinces her to stand over the edge to the point where they're going to jump. She's standing on the edge, and they harness her up. They put the harness on, they tighten it. Then they put the boyfriend's harness on, and they tighten it. And the guy's probably running through all the safety aspects of the jump, and she's probably barely listening because she's so scared. And then eventually they get them standing right near the edge, and then her eyes are closed, and she's probably again whimpering, barely listening. And the man says, jump. And they both jump. And then there's screams, everyone's screaming because he was talking to the boyfriend. He wasn't talking to her. Her bungee cord wasn't attached, it was only her boyfriend's that was attached. I wonder at what point she knew she wasn't attached to anything. Her boyfriend said at some point she went unconscious, so she was screaming and then she went unconscious and the screaming stopped, and that was way before she hit the floor. And I also saw in another account that they said she'd had a heart attack, and so she would have been dead before she hit the floor regardless of if she was attached or not. And that is why I will never bungee jump, and why I will never be told what to do by a man.
I'm dead. You gotta love it. She had to add that last part in there. She had to let us know about that last part.
We could have woken up to the news this morning that Vladimir Putin is dead. Here's why we didn't. Last night, a Russian military officer said that Putin's helicopter was allegedly the target of an assassination attempt by Ukraine. He told RBC News that while Putin was visiting the Kursk region, his helicopter was in the epicenter of a Ukrainian drone strike. However, he claimed that Russia's air defense systems intercepted the drone and destroyed it before it could reach the president's flight path. And while Ukraine themselves haven't verified yet if this is true, following that alleged incident, yesterday Russia launched its largest aerial assault on Ukraine since the invasion began, resulting in at least 14 civilian deaths and numerous injuries. Now, Trump was pissed about this. He said, and I quote, "Putin has gone absolutely crazy," and repeated multiple times that he doesn't know what has happened to him since they've always had a good relationship. As always, I'll keep you guys updated.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was just talking the other day about how like the war, like everything's going in a good direction, and then something like that happens, and now Russia is like really starting to like not drawing the peace lines, is not trying to have the peace negotiation no more. And yeah, there is a video of Trump like literally saying like he does not know what's going on with Putin.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people. I don't know what's wrong with him. What the hell happened to him, right? He's killing a lot of people. I'm not happy about that.
And it's crazy to see that, because like when he first came in, he was talking about like how he has a good relationship with him. So either one, Putin's going crazy, or two, Putin's going crazy. But anyways, thank y'all for watching. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. Let's try to get to 2,000 likes this video. And YouTube said you guys would love this video. I was low-key a little bit tired of this video, and like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm about to take a crazy nap after this. So click on this video, yay.